let me introduce you to the Views project. So VIEWS stands for Visual Interactions in Early Writing Systems. Early is a slightly vague concept there, since actually we're interested in everything from the ancient world to the modern day, but our case studies tend to be ancient and historical writing systems. So I'm the PI. So we're interested in lots of aspects of writing. What prompted the project was a sort of realization after working on writing systems for a long time that visual aspects of writing, although they're very obviously a part of kind of how we conceptualize what writing is and how it works, have not always been studied very systematically. So many questions about how writing works began to occur to me when I was putting together the original proposal for this project. So, for instance, contextual issues such as how does writing relate to other areas of visual culture? What motivates the visual features of a writing system? Everything from the shapes of the signs to the ways in which writing is laid out, the direction in which writing is done and read, and so on. What does the act of writing look like in different times and places? So we had a wonderful paper from Tim Brooks last night to kick off the conference, and he very much put an emphasis on writing as something that we do. It has a physical aspect. Even if writing looks like this on a computer, like just typing, there's still a physical aspect. And I think we'll all be interested to think about those issues of where the digital instantiations of writing sort of live alongside what we might think more traditionally of as writing. I'm not really that keen to try and define things. I'd rather expand and explore personally, but it will be interesting to see where the conversations go over the course of the conference. How does visibility of writing interact with usage? So, writing may be very visible in a given society. It may be much harder to access for some people. And I suppose literacy is always an issue that's kind of around the edges of that, but it's a really thorny issue at the same time. What if we were to classify writing systems not by their linguistic features, or not only by their linguistic features, but also by their visual features? So, I was thinking, for instance, about maybe two systems like Egyptian hieroglyphs and Maya hieroglyphs, and how we might apply the same sorts of labels to them, and actually there are visual ways in which they work very similarly, but from a linguistic perspective, we would probably classify them in two different areas just because of how they encode language. It's quite interesting to think about how a linguistic taxonomy might look quite different from a visual taxonomy, and how you might be able to sort of combine and compare those. This is the Views team. So I've shown you everyone. So these are all the faces that you will see around the conference today. I won't go through everyone individually now, except as well, I'm going to mention the research team, which is this 5. But we also have Rhiannon, who is a research assistant working on the Endangered Network at the moment, and Sarah is our project manager, who's doing everything behind the scenes outside. And then I'm just going to take you through the kind of remit of the Views project. So most obvious thing to say is that we're conducting research. So the members of the research team each have their own little sort of mini project that they're working on, which will produce a larger piece of work, a monograph in most cases. Now, the members of the research, I didn't actually ask my colleagues how to label because I threw this together very quickly when I realised that Sylvia wasn't going to be here, and I needed to fill the time and could usefully have a PowerPoint for that. So don't put too much faith in the labels that I've slapped on everyone's faces for now. Three of us are speaking at the conference, so you can judge from their papers what is being worked on. But so my area is sort of, I'm hoping I'm just back from maternity leave, so I haven't done very much of it yet, but I'm hoping to look across quite a wide range of writing systems to look at issues of direction and layout. And then Jordan is working on Egyptian and Mayan, so what I mentioned and sort of prompted some of my thoughts on kind of writing system taxonomies. Colton is working on cuneiform, Philip's working on Phoenician, and Merton is working on Cretan hieroglyphic. And yeah, we can all sort of talk about exactly where our interests lie. I said, for Phoenician, I said so cool, because okay. And yeah, in general, we hope to push some theoretical and disciplinary boundaries. I'm not going to try and go into too much detail on that now. In fact, I'm not going to say any more about it. I instead found an enigmatic graphic to put up at this some of the questions that I mentioned at the beginning of the PowerPoint are the sorts of things that might be kind of prompting the directions of our research. But we're still quite early in the project. So in fact, most members of the team have only been with us for around a year to 18 months. So the research is happening, but the publications will follow. But yes, you can find out from the team members who are giving presentations today what the ongoing research looks like at the moment. So we're going to have 3 conferences as part of the project, and this is the first one. We haven't completely decided the themes for the other 2 conferences yet, so look out for calls for papers for those coming up in the future, but not before next year. We haven't scheduled them either, so look out for news. If you don't already subscribe to the Views website, it's a useful way of getting our updates. You can put your email in and then you get email updates. We also have an exciting programme of visiting fellowships. So there are a number of colleagues who are going to be joining us for extended periods, of which there are a couple in the room today. Here's a little visual to show you the ones who are coming over 2024 to 25, but we do have a post up on the website to tell you a bit more about that, and you can find out about individuals on our visiting fellows page. But it's very nice to be able to, we don't have a lot of money to put behind it, but we can at least give some scholars opportunities to kind of use the resources here, and also to join in with the project, to talk to us, to share ideas in both directions. That's the idea behind it. So we're very much looking forward to actually quite a busy year for visits coming up. We have quite a lot going on in terms of outreach and social media. So we do like to try and communicate what we work on to people outside of academia, strictly speaking. And as you'll already have noticed from the remit of this conference in the first place, I'm not really interested in trying to keep these ideas within a small academic community. I think, these are topics for everyone and we should all be talking about them. And I have learned so much from typographers, from activists, from people working in sort of art and various art projects and so on. And that has enhanced my research so much. So I very much want to kind of speak for the relevance of things that are not usually classed as kind of strict academia, because it really enhances what I do. I think we'll see that from the conference too. In terms of social media, so we have our website, but you can follow us in many other ways. So there's Twitter, there's Instagram. I'm trying to actually man the Instagram feed now, so there are pictures going up there a bit more regularly, and we're on Mastodon, Blue Sky as well. So look out for us if you're around on social media. And yeah, feel free to do some live tweeting or whatever you call live tweeting on other platforms. In fact, we don't really call it that on X anymore either. And then finally, the final thing I wanted to mention is the Endangered Writing Network. So last night we had a wonderful talk from Tim Brooks, who runs a project called Endangered Alphabets. Now that's a separate project, but we're very much working in collaboration with him. And when I sort of started to think about how the research that I'm doing on the ancient world might have useful implications for endangered languages and writing systems in the modern day, Tim was the first person I found, pretty much the only person I found at first, who was really interested in those issues. And that was the start of a very nice collaboration. Now, the Endangered Writing Network is hosted through the Views website. So I'll just kind of explain what it's about. The idea, so the starting idea was to try and bring research on writing systems together and to get people talking who wouldn't usually talk to each other. So I'm hoping we will have some kind of repository for relevant research. This is a work in progress. If you're interested in the network, then please have a look at the page on our website dedicated to it, where you can sign up for email updates. And we also have a Discord server where people can have more immediate conversation, if that is of interest to you. So hoping to create more for discussion between people who might not usually talk to each other. So again, I'm thinking researchers, language activists, working in typography, crucially speakers of minority languages and users of minority writing systems. And I suppose it's worth saying that, minority or maybe better minoritized writing systems sometimes are traditional ones, but sometimes are relatively newly created ones. And I think, there are good reasons for sort of thinking of both in similar ways. It's very much worth getting yourself a copy of Tim Brooks's Atlas of Endangered Alphabets, where he includes both and has some very nice rationale behind that. So he says that newly created writing systems are endangered in the way that a fledgling bird is as it leaves the nest. So it's not quite the same kind of endangerment, but still its existence is threatened. So we're also interested in raising awareness, which can be done in various ways. Looking for opportunities for collaboration, looking for funding to put behind collaborations. I'm creating policy document as well that is being done in collaboration with the Rise Up project, who work on endangered languages in Europe and minoritized languages in Europe. So there are various things that are sort of happening, and it feels like things are coming together, but it will, develop over time. So if you're interested, please do join. And then the last, which I've labelled sort of community work, what I mean by that is that I really hope that all of this, theoritizing will actually make a difference to someone in the end. And, if we can say that we've tried to put all this together and actually we managed to, work with people who were concerned about their writing tradition, who were trying to revitalise it or to maintain it. If any of these kind of theoretical ramifications from our research could actually start to contribute to that, and trying to get people talking more about the problem that is very often overlooked, then I think we would have done some good. So, I'm very interested in the idea that academic research can actually do some good in the world. And that is where I was going to finish. Now I'm just running slightly under time deliberately so that I can make sure the PowerPoint setup is all okay for our next speaker, Sabina. So just to say thank you for listening. I hope you all enjoy the conference.